These stories make me sad, dude. These stories make me sad. But it's so sad that it gets funny again. You might recall that we had a lot of fun with Inverness Caledonian Thistle. Not the club itself, but some random prospective dude that was trying to buy the club. It was so very transparently, clearly full of shit that it was actually like a Saturday Night Live skit unfolding. And so we couldn't not talk about it. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion, right? Fortunately, everybody walked away from the car crash okay, except for the club that, is in administration. So I guess not everybody walked away from the car crash okay. They did in the video, though, because I don't get people that like to watch videos where actual bad things are happening. Except for this video, I guess. Maybe. Are actual bad things happening? Yes, to Dumbarton FC, who happen to be in the same league as Inverness Caledonian Thistle. Now, this might be indicative of I'll rephrase that. This is indicative of a problem in Scottish football. It is indicative of a problem in football more broadly because COVID kicked down it kicked a whole bunch of dominoes. And over the next decade plus, we are going to see clubs that have been surviving on, ventilators just continue to fall by the wayside because they were not financially viable without ticket sales for that long of a time. Honestly, one of the most depressing things about me having made this channel and forcing myself to pay attention to random shit happening in the world of football is that I am made increasingly aware of the fact that a lot of clubs are just a house of cards. And if you breathe wrong, the whole thing's going to come falling down. If they have one bad year, if they miss Europe, they get relegated one time, it's over. And obviously it depends on how strict financial services are, like the whole Lyon thing. They're not actually in administration. They've just run afoul of the financial rules of the league. France has one of the more stricter financial rules systems. Scotland clearly doesn't, because the clubs we're talking about here, this isn't Lyon, all right? These are clubs that are financially insolvent, like clubs that, Inverness needed like £1 million just kind of instantly. They need the £1 million ferry to stop by and help them out, which, by the way, would love if I could befriend the £1 million ferry. That sounds like, that's sick. While we're just handing out £1 million at a time, let's just kick that inflation into overdrive and toss $1 million over here there, Buster. I'll do the conversion myself. But this is good news for Inverness, as much as it is bad news for Dumbarton, which is the funny part of how sad this all is that Dumbarton has had a worse season than Inverness in terms of, kicking balls into goals and all that stuff that we pretend to pay attention to, apparently, because all I'm talking about is freaking finances. Just kidding. But Dumbarton's been worse at that whole, sports side of the sport. And that means that their point deduction is going to take them below Inverness Caledonian Thistle, which means... Well, let me show you. Once that 15-point deduction kicks in for Dumbarton, it means they're going to be in 10th. Because they're going to be 4 points behind Inverness, which also means that Inverness is going to be in 9th. And 9th is a promotion playoff. Literally, Dumbarton also going into administration in the same season might keep Inverness from getting relegated again. Now, this is going to be a rock fight. There's another team benefiting from this, which is Anon. Okay, Anon, or I don't know how to say it. This is the first time I've ever seen that club in my entire life. Anonymous here. They are supposed to be the team getting relegated. They're the one with the minus 15 goal difference, and yet somehow they're not even in a relegation playoff. They're going to be bumped up to 8th, and they're going to have a solid 10-point advantage over Inverness over the rest of the season. So it's going to be interesting to see if Inverness or Dumbarton, both of them, are able to actually catch up to Anon, because both are clearly better. I guess I wouldn't say Dumbarton's clearly better. They have won less games and are 1 point ahead, but based off goal difference, they're more competitive than Anon is. Will Anon survive? Inverness is now handed a golden lifeline. Instead of trying to track down Anon, all they have to do is stay ahead of Dumbarton, and they can stay in Scottish League One as long as they can sort out this whole administration thing. And my question is, who else? Is Stenhousemuir's book, are their books getting a little shaky? Bro, if I was working at any of the 8 remaining clubs in this league, I'd be shaking in my damn boots. Are you kidding me? You just watched 20% of the league go into administration. There is something in the water in Scottish League One. Something poisonous, something disastrous. It has now struck multiple teams. I love the fact the Press and Journal actually put this in the title. Thistle into administration and drop below ICT and League One standings. Yeah. Now, the people that initially broke this story that they were going into administration were the Sun, which is ironic because apparently the nickname for Dumbarton is the Suns. So dude, we're just kind of lining up here, you know. Such a funny story. They were founded in 1872. That's not the big takeaway, though. Very old club. Again, every video I make about Scotland, all of these clubs are older than the Roman Empire, it would seem. But Sunsport understands the likelihood of redundancies amongst the playing staff is unlikely as the squad is already so small. In that is the most depressing sentence you are going to hear in this entire story, that apparently Dumbarton's squad is so small that there really isn't any opportunity to get rid of any of the paid players on the staff in order to try and balance out the financial woes that Dumbarton has. It also means that apparently Dumbarton has already tried to take steps to resolve this issue by cutting down on spending on their playing staff. And it just hasn't worked at all. This is also a club coming from a different situation, which I find interesting. If these were just both clubs that had been relegated from the Championship to League One, and then they were having financial issues, then it would clearly be an issue between the teams that are trying to stay in the Scottish Championship and the ones that aren't. Inverness was relegated last season down to League One. No, it's literally the exact opposite. You see, Dumbarton actually just got promoted from League Two to League One. They just got up. They're supposed to be making more money. They're supposed to be surviving and thriving. All the money that they spent to get promoted, now all of a sudden it's working. My question is, how bad is a financial plan? If the best possible outcome happens in terms of the league, like obviously you could go on a big cup run, but that in one corner, how bad is your financial management? If the best outcome happens, you get promoted, you go up a league, and you still go into administration, somehow that's worse. That is just worse. Because at least Inverness Caledonian Thistle's been relegated twice in the last 10 years or whatever. Right? You know, they were a club that had to really downshift and just didn't downshift intelligently enough from being a team in the top division in Scotland. Dumbarton is not that. They're a team that was in the 4th division that just came up. I play Football Manager a lot on stream. I make YouTube videos about it on my main YouTube channel. Of course, that's a different guy. We all know that Zealandism, I'm Zealandism, and then the guy that makes those videos is Zealand, but we get confused people confuse us for the same person all the time, so we're just kind of going with it. Right? But in Football Manager, financially speaking, the goal is always to get promoted. It doesn't matter if you go into debt as long as you go up. It doesn't matter how much money you're spending. Spend as much as the board will possibly allow you to spend as long as you go up. The moment you don't go up while that's happening, or heavens forbid you go down while that's happening, then you got a problem. Then there's a significant problem going on. But promotion is supposed to solve all ills. And the fact that this league has managed to send somebody into administration that's got relegated into it and promoted into it tells me that there just is not enough financial trickle down going on in the Scottish leagues. There just isn't. And look, Scotland's tried to replicate what England's done. They've got all the way, from the Premier League all the way down to League Two. And maybe it was the other way around, but right now, those 4 leagues in England, the vast majority of the time can afford to be professional. You know I know that? Because the vast majority of the 5th division in England is professional. That's the level you're not even supposed to be professional at, but in order to try and compete and get into the 4th division, there's enough money involved that people are willing to take their clubs pro in the 5th tier. In Scotland, that might not just be the case. I mean, this is just like some armchair, ideas flying from me here. But it seems like Scotland might not have the football economy to support this many professional divisions. It's just hard to pay that many professional wages. And it might need, they might need to lessen the requirements of these clubs just a little bit to allow them to financially survive that, or convince people to let more money trickle down the system, which we know that's going to be an uphill battle. But lowering those requirements in terms of the field and the facilities and whatever, the requirements that we were talking about with Bonnyrigg Rose, where their field's apparently a little too tilted, even though it looks perfectly fine in the highlights that I've been watching. I'm sure it's got a little bend to it, but I feel like a lot of fields that I played on growing up had that sort of thing. I realized that they weren't, football league fields in Scotland, but I mean, I mean, we're talking about in that Bonnyrigg Rose, I think we're talking about the 4th division of Scotland here. You know, and I know you want to uphold all of these standards, but dude, nobody pays attention. Like the 4th division of Italy is all over the place. You know, like going all the way down to the 4th division in some of these other countries that are more powerful than Scotland, it doesn't even exist. Right? That have more powerful first. The Netherlands only has 2. The Netherlands has more people, better clubs, and a better national team. Better footballing history. Right? Obviously, Celtic and Rangers at their peak can compete with good, you know, Dutch clubs. But nah, I mean, not on average. The Dutch system only goes down 2. And then it just stops. There's like no relegation from the Dutch 2nd division. And it feels like a much more financially healthy system. Not the lack of promotion and relegation, but the idea that there are 2 professional divisions. And the stress on the lower Scottish league seems to be, you know, it's becoming more and more evident. I'm a solutions-oriented guy here. I don't know if this is the right solution. I'm just saying, 20% of the league is in administration. It's a pretty big number. Okay.